Now, I usually wouldn't pick nearly as ridiculous of a title for my speech, but knowing that Sean was going to be the Toastmaster, I could not resist. I would not ask Tom Zuckel to say utter chaos, milk labeling. Thank you, Sean. As the title would suggest, I'm going to be speaking about milk from cows, so not almond milk or the like. So I've done some research on this topic, and let me tell you, milk labeling is a layered thing. So I've done some research, and I put together this table for you. It has an overview of just some basics on milk lingo, and then the table goes into some of the different labels that you will find on milk cartons and things. So I'm not going to be able to cover each of the labels that you find on there, but I'm going to be highlighting two. So I'm going to be specifically focusing on grass-fed and cows not treated with RBST/RBGH. So let's start with the first label that you will sometimes find on milk cartons, grass-fed. What does that mean? USDA has a definition for grass-fed that you will find on these milk labels. That means that the cows are not fed grain or grain byproducts. Now, USDA has this definition, but they don't necessarily verify that the producers are ensuring that the cattle are not fed grain or grain byproducts. So USDA actually has their own label. So if it specifically says USDA grass-fed, then you know that that's legit. But otherwise, producers can put on there grass-fed, and USDA doesn't really follow up on them. So that's just good for you to know. So as well, going along with that, USDA's definition also for grass-fed also contains access to pasture during growing times, so that the cows have access to pasture during growing times. But what does that mean? When is a growing time? And access is actually different than being outdoors. So that's a little bit confusing as well. So that is what this label means, grass-fed. But what does that not mean? There's a lot going on behind that as well. So according to a Harvest Public Media article that I found, which is where a lot of the table, a lot of where that information came from, is from a Harvest Public Media article. That also goes into detail that cows are not necessarily just fed grass. They can also eat other things like hay or leafy greens. I think they even mentioned milk in there. So even though it labels on the milk carton grass-fed, they're also eating some other things. And also, as well, so when you see grass-fed, you're also kind of thinking, all right, well, the cows are outside. They're just munching on some grass. It's good, right? It's not, that's not always the case, though, either. As I had mentioned with that definition, they have access to the outdoors during the growing time. So whether or not they are outdoors or not is another story that I would like some clarification on. So another thing as well, why do we care if the cows are grass-fed? We're just drinking the milk. Does it matter what they eat? Actually, it does. It does matter what the cows are eating. And according to a Science Daily article that I had read, cows can eat grain and they will grow faster, but grain is not something that cows are designed to eat. So they actually get sicker when they eat grains. Cows are ruminants, and so they need high fiber food, and the grains are not as high in fiber. And so the acid in the cow's stomachs, it will actually cause the cows to get ulcers if they have this lower fiber food such as grains. So the cows are getting ulcers, which leads to bacteria getting into their system, and which also leads to I forget the word, but on their liver, they get the abrasions or things on their liver. So the cows aren't designed to eat grain, and so even though they grow faster, they suffer some issues with that as well. So that's why it matters what the cows are eating. Can you believe it? All of this is just behind the two little words you can find, grass-fed, on your milk cartons. So it's amazing what goes on behind this. So moving on to another label that you can find on milk cartons, cows not treated with RBST/RBHG. And so that stands for recombinant bovine sonotrophin, with the RBST, and then the RBHG is recombinant bovine growth hormone. And essentially, these are growth hormones that cows can be treated with to increase milk production. And so this label, when they specifically say not treated with this, that means that the cows are not given these synthetic hormones. And so they are just producing their milk naturally. Now this label is verified by USDA. And so what it's saying is that the cows are not given these synthetic hormones. What it's not saying is that you will still find hormones in your milk, because cows are animals, and all animals produce hormones. So you will still find hormones in your milk, but not these synthetic hormones. Now there's also some debate about what these hormones in the milk are like. The FDA doesn't find any issue with having the synthetic hormones in cow's milk, even though the European Union and Canada does not allow these synthetic hormones to be in the milk. And USDA doesn't see any difference between cows treated with the synthetic hormone versus not, as the hormones are very similar structurally. So all of this being said, it's up to you if you want to search for having the hormones in your milk versus not. And so one of the reasons that led me to pursue looking into this in the first place was hormones in your milk. I made the connection somehow along the lines that having the hormones in your milk might be leading to childhood early puberty. I did find an article, and this is not actually the case, based on a nutritionalist from the article Scientific American. The nutritionalist was saying that humans produce so many hormones on your own that the hormones that you find in milk are really not going to make that big of a difference. And that she thinks that the difference, what's causing the early puberty in children, would be more related to childhood obesity going up instead of the hormones you find in milk. Because actually, the trend is people are not drinking as much milk, yet early childhood puberty is going up. So she thinks that the increase in obesity and the increase in childhood puberty would be more of the reason. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope that you are now a more informed consumer.